I will request uh, General Philip Campose, the former Vice Chief of the Indian Army. He's been my army commander also. Scholarly general in the army. I mean, he comes from the mechanized forces. So you will find that his vision and views are also, like blitzkrieg. They will have speed, stealth, and strength. And without wasting much of a time, the session will be, he's going to be speaking on why India won the Kargil war. I mean, that's a very good, a discussion or a point of view which we'll be hearing from a general who's very well revered in the Indian Army, not only in Indian Army, but across many professional armies. Over to you, General, sir.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I must start off by apologizing for a bad throat. But nonetheless, I thought that this event was important and I must speak. Compliments to GCTC for organizing yet another important seminar on an important security issue. 23 years ago, the Indian Army won Operation Vijay, a hard-fought war with Pakistan on the treacherous high-altitude terrain along the line of control, the LOC, in the Ladakh region of Jammu and Kashmir. The glorious victory of 26 July 1999, epitomized by the blood and guts of the Indian soldier, brought to a close yet another India-Pakistan war, the fourth in just half a century of independence from British colonial rule. The Pakistani Army's devious plan envisaged infiltration of Pakistani military and paramilitary troops, disguised as militants across the LOC to surreptitiously occupy the Indian Army's winter-vacated posts along the 160-kilometer stretch of ridges and tactical heights overlooking the national highway between Srinagar and Leh in the mountainous Kargil area between Dras and Batalik. Accordingly, Pakistan's Operation Badr was launched in April 1999 when the winter snows had started melting and was aimed to block the critical road between Kashmir and Ladakh in an effort to force the Indian Army to vacate the Siachen Glacier, which lies further to the east. It was yet another attempt to draw attention to and internationalize the J&K issue, which Pakistan continued to consider as unresolved. In the event, Pakistan's efforts failed miserably on all costs, on all fronts, politically, militarily, diplomatically, and informationally. And finally, after a series of tactical defeats, combined with intense international pressure, especially by the United States, they had to accept defeat and undertake an ignominious withdrawal. To understand the exemplary, unparalleled nature of the Indian military's achievements in the Kargil War, one has to review the events of May 1999, the month in which the intrusions were discovered. The first attacks to evict the intruders were launched by Indian Army units by the middle of May 1999. Though some of these were successful, others suffered reverses on account of the tough terrain, bad weather, inadequate artillery support, and heavy firing by the Pakistani intruders from their dominating higher positions. Effective air support was also lacking. On the other hand, the Pakistani intruders, who included army and SSG troops, were heavily armed with automatic weapons and rocket launchers and even anti-aircraft guns, which could bring down a heavy volume of fire on the attacking troops. They were supported by artillery and air defense missiles, air defense weapons, including missiles. Despite these difficulties, which appeared difficult initially to surmount, the Indian Army launched a successful campaign and was able to finally achieve an unparalleled victory. Let us take a look at the reasons for the Indian victory. Firstly, the speedy build-up of Indian forces. Operation Vijay to evict the intruders was announced by the Indian Army in May 1999. Simultaneously, the Indian Air Force announced Operation Safed Sagar to support the army plan. As part of Operation Vijay, further build-up of military forces in the Ladakh sector was undertaken. Reportedly, about 200,000 troops were mobilized for this war. Additional formations, including a division involved in counter-militancy operations in the valley, as well as Army Headquarters Reserve formations, were moved into the Ladakh sector. Concurrently, formations and units facing the western borders opposite J&K, Punjab, and Rajasthan were mobilized to undertake a deterrent posture. Additional artillery, including powerful 155mm Bofors guns, were brought into the Kargil sector to bolster the artillery resources. Effective combat air support by the Indian Air Force was also brought into the fray. Meanwhile, the Indian Navy deployed proactively in full strength in the Arabian Sea in a dissuasive posture. In the meanwhile, to avoid escalation of conflict between the two nuclear-armed neighbors, India decided that the LOC should not be crossed by the Indian Armed Forces. The second reason, the high levels of motivation of the Indian infantry. Let us take a look at the capture of Tololing Height and Tiger Hill, two of the highest terrain objectives in the Dras sector, both at about 16,500 feet, as also the Kalubar Peak in the Batalik sector at greater height, all with sheer precipitous sides of ice held by troops of the Pakistan's Northern Light Infantry. These were the toughest nuts to crack. The attacks were launched by troops who had to make the arduous climb to the top from multiple directions over a number of days. In all these cases, well-motivated troops kept attacking despite relentless artillery bombardment and heavy machine gun fire. Troops repeatedly assaulted well-protected enemy bunkers despite sustaining multiple bullet injuries while assaulting MMG and HMG posts, but succeeded in their tasks. Only some of the wounded survived to tell the tale. The effective fire support by the Indian Air Force and the artillery also played a crucial role in their success. There are hundreds of tales of acts of rare motivation and extreme gallantry in the Kargil war. All these finally resulted in the Pakistani intruders being evicted and the Pakistan Army yet again having to admit defeat. Troops of various units of the Indian Army and their valiant commanders fought bravely in highly adverse conditions. Over 500 of them made the supreme sacrifice, while more than 1,300 were wounded. The list of gallantry awards of the Kargil War: 4 Paramveer Chakras, 9 Mahavir Chakras, 55 Veer Chakras, many of them posthumous, tells its own story of bravery in the toughest battle conditions. What made the Indian Army fight and achieve victory against such heavy odds? Undoubtedly, most of the officers led from the front. Other than patriotism and individual bravery, the answer lies in the adage, Naam, Namak, Nishan. In terms of the regimentation, among the Indian Army's proud units and regiments, whose gallant officers and men felt motivated and compelled to keep going forward, even in the most dangerous circumstances, for upholding the name of the units and the honor of their flag. Therein lies the secret behind the Indian Army's bravery and its saga of success. Thirdly, the Indian success in garnering favorable international opinion. One of the aims of Operation Badr, Pakistan's failed misadventure in Kargil, was to draw attention of the global community to Jammu and Kashmir and internationalize the issue. In the event, it failed miserably because of India's actions and achievements on the political, diplomatic, military, and informational fronts. By announcing that India would not cross the LOC, India was able to clearly indicate that it was making efforts to not escalate the conflict. Further, it was able to convey diplomatically that Pakistan was clearly the aggressor in the case. President Clinton conveyed firmly to PM Nawaz Sharif in Washington on 4 July 1999 that Pakistan's actions were unacceptable and its forces would have to withdraw immediately. The G8 group of powerful nations conveyed the same message to Pakistan. So also the ASEAN. Even China indicated to Pakistan that it would have to withdraw. All these show the importance of international opinion and the success of India's diplomatic campaign. Also, the Indian military's resolve to evict the intruders was clearly visible to the international community by this time. Fourthly, the success of India's media campaign. The victory in Kargil war is also an example of the importance of the media and the successful outcome of India's informational campaign. Other than the fact that the media brought the correct ground picture to the international community, it also kept the Indian people informed to provide motivation and support to the Indian troops battling heavy odds in Kargil. In the United States, the Indian community brought out full-page ads in all prominent newspapers to inform the US legislators about the true nature of Pakistan's machinations. In the event, the global community, especially the United States, did not accept the Pakistani version of events and instead forced Pakistan to admit failure and withdraw. Clearly, a successful outcome of India's informational campaign. On this, the 24th anniversary of Kargil Vijay Diwas, let us sit back and think about the proud success of the Indian Armed Forces at Kargil and the gallant actions of our soldiers, many of whom who did not return alive to their units and their families. May their memories stay alive and motivate new generations of the military and our youth so that they continue to protect our country and our people. Jai Hind and good day.
Thank you very much, sir. It was really very, heartening to hear his words, and he very categorically brought out why India came out victorious in this war. I also want to tell you one incident when he took over as the Western Army Commander. I was, serving under him. He was the first, Army Commander who said, I would like to address all the officers through a video conferencing. And video conferencing was not, the flavor of the day. And there were glitches. At the moment he started speaking, there were glitches. And we had almost thought that, some of the signalers will have their obituaries. But he was calm, cool, and collected. And by the time he handed over the Western Army, I mean, people were quite tech savvy, and he not only saved a lot of money, but he had more reach and proximity to most of the leaders, both as far as junior commissioned officers were concerned, as well as officers. Thank you very much, sir. Very kind of you.